June 3rd, 2017. Where are you going to be? Hopefully San Francisco, California, partying with your favorite boys. Kindafunny.com/KFL3. Get your tickets now. There'll be girls there too. Don't worry.
Hey, you. You love the internet, right? Well, how about you make the internet? That's right. This episode of the GameOverGreggy Show is brought to you by Squarespace. Make your dreams come to life if your dreams involve the internet. And in this day and age, brother, you know they do. They let me write this ad again, by the way. Whether you need a domain, a website, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Squarespace features beautiful award-winning design templates in all-in-one platform, 24/7 customer support. Squarespace provides all sorts of cool things like custom domains, and it's on the internet. You're on the internet right now. That means we're all part of the internet. This is like being told you're part of a tree and can grow an apple. Grow an apple today with Squarespace. Start your free trial at squarespace.com, GameOverGreggy, and enter the offer code GOG to get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace, grow an internet apple. I made that up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy Show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hello.
It's been a week, maybe more. How's your back?
It's getting better.
Yeah?
It's getting better, yeah.
You getting there every day?
Yeah.
How long before
Hydrating.
you're back out there rolling around with Sean Pitts in bed?
Oh, probably
I'm sorry,
another,
on the mat.
Same difference. Probably another week, I would imagine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, right now the thought of doing anything physically strenuous just throws a shudder up my spine, literally and physically and figuratively. So, yeah, I'm not going to be doing anything crazy anytime soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over there, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
LaCroix.
LaCroix.
You should just be like, LaCroix.
When did it start
Viva
for you
LaCroix.
with LaCroix? Because it's on its way to take over the entire world, I've noticed.
I'm late to this party.
Okay.
This party, I didn't get the invite, and I
Yeah.
just showed up eventually because I heard
Because of
about it
Gia
on
Harris.
Facebook.
Yeah,
No.
Gia brought you to the party.
Gia brought him to the party?
Gia was at the party already.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not going to that party. I also wasn't invited to the
Sure.
party. But then I went down to LA for a meeting with Microsoft.
Oh,
a couple months
ooh
ago.
la la.
Yeah, because I'm a
Siskumba.
fancy motherfucker. And they had LaCroix, and they're like, well, since you're a fancy motherfucker, and this is a fancy business meeting, you want some LaCroix? It's fancy water. And I'm
You're like, yeah, I drink it all the time. Of course I'm fancy.
Yeah. No, I was just like, let me try it. And I tried it. I'm like, this is disgusting. And then just like every other drink in the world, if you drink it enough, you stop thinking it's nasty, and you just keep drinking it.
Yeah.
And it's not bad for you. It just makes you bloated, but nah.
And joining us for the first time, Patreon supporter, Crush Your Goals podcast host, Chris Yates.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm great, man.
Hanging in there.
Chris, so you supported us over on patreon.com/kindafunny to come on the show.
Yes, I did.
I fucked you over, booked you, and then totally had the wrong day on my calendar.
It's all right.
We figured it all out. Here you are now.
I'm here.
You tell us about it. What's the give us
The
a
elevator
nutshell
pitch.
version.
Elevator
Yeah.
pitch.
Just crush your goals is just basically the idea of just doing what you love, whether it is, if you want to be a librarian, a cook, an astronaut, whatever it
Sure.
is that you makes happy in life. You know what I mean? You really go after it. Just do that. As long as you're not, hurting babies or anything else, or
Yeah,
just,
of course.
the whole Kevin Smith Kool-Aid thing. I've been drinking that, so that's basically it.
How long have you been doing your podcast?
Since January 2nd, I believe.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so I've been
still
doing,
fresh.
about that, and then I've been doing it the whole time, posting, and
Once a week.
once a week.
One-on-ones?
I kind of do something, you guys may be aware of it, where I put it through topic by topic,
Oh!
or segment by segment,
Sure.
because it's I'm all by myself, and so it's the only way I can keep content and keep up with everybody else in
Sure.
this,
This
world.
YouTube world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Content's
That's smart, though.
king.
I like
So-
that. We were talking earlier about this, and I was looking at your YouTube channel. It's very impressive looking.
Thank you.
It seems like you've
You're being too
learned
kind.
from the right people. Your logo designed by Zach Silver.
Yes, it
The
is.
same guy that does our logos.
Reflect Design Co.
Which is great. Yeah, Reflect Design Co. Fantastic work.
Yeah.
And I love your thumbnails. I love the look of all of it. And yeah, you look like you've done a lot of content for only doing it the last couple months.
Doing a lot of studying,
Yeah, so it's good.
as in watching.
Yeah, that's how things get done, though. I talk about it all the
So.
time about how our stuff reflects what I learned from watching Rooster Teeth growing up. So.
Well, and that was the thing too, is just seeing you guys and be like, I can do that. You know what I mean? I'm
Yep.
just like
Exactly.
the whole thing of like,
Literally anybody can.
No, yeah,
Get on it.
and so literally with my setup is that I'm in my own room as well. It's literally just setting up, moving my bed, putting my camera up, my lights, and then that's it.
And you
So if
got
I
a
would
nice
have come over
camera,
and done
too.
your show at your house, I would have been on your bed.
I mean, we can put you on the bed. We can do a show that way if you want. Yeah, move the bed.
Shut up, Kevin. Let me just dream about being on a bed, all right?
You have your own
Yeah,
bed.
Dream about
you
the
got two
bed.
beds
Aren't
in your
you
place
married?
now.
I got one bed.
How many
I am
beds?
married. That's right.
I was saying.
He is married. God,
Is that
that's
weird
never
to
not going
say?
to be weird.
Not yet. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's still fun. It's still quaint.
Yeah.
To say my wife this.
Yeah,
my
right.
Wife that. Cool Greg was over here for a barbecue today. He was talking to me about it. And we were talking about it. He's like, yeah. And you got someone bad at home, and now you get to call her wife. And I'm like, I do. It's cool. This is cool.
You do have someone bad.
Yeah, I do. I do.
She's a bad. She's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll put it
yeah.
out there.
Yeah, thank you very much for
I'll
saying
say that. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks for
lay it
bringing
out
that
on the
person
line.
into our lives.
No problem. Well, you guys brought her into mine, so
That's fair
last
enough.
week's episode.
That's fair enough.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can toss us a couple of bucks, get the shows early, or toss us more, get on the show, get some extras, have some fun, have a fun email and phone call with me when I fuck up the scheduling because I'm too overworked and have things happening. If you have no money to toss, though, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we post the entire show, topic by topic, day by day, until it goes up as one big video and MP3 the following Friday. Chris, the floor is yours. What is your topic?
My topic is creativity. I know this is a funny way of saying things because, I'm copying you guys and Kevin Smith, but
Well, yeah, that's interesting. You're a big Kevin Smith fan, right?
yes, I am.
Outside, when you got here today, I was talking to you, and it was Kevin.
And I
who-
floored you with not saying I don't do games.
Yeah, Kevin mentioned something about video games. Like, I don't play video games. I'm like, wait, how did you find us?
I found you guys through Kevin Smith. And then so I basically found you guys and just listened to you ever since then. So basically when that came in December of a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week of December.
That's where I found you guys.
Wow.
And I was just like, you know what? I think I can do it. But I was in step back. I was listening to Kevin Smith and be like, I can do a podcast, or at least I think I can do a podcast. Not well, mind you, but I was just like, I think I can maybe do it. And so I was just like, let's try. And so my first podcast was like Yeti Mike, me talking to 2 friends, and just like, fuck it, let's try. And so then it was just like, okay, I'm going to recess things, redo things because life happens. And then, so I got that.
That's what Kevin does.
Yeah.
He loves trying to distract everybody during the show. Just here he goes.
But anyways, so then I
Just half
relaunched
a Premiere
everything, and then
window.
it was just the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna do with Kind of Funny. I can say I can do that, so I'm just gonna do this, and then the
Nice.
Kind of Funny, and then with Kevin Smith and things like that.
Okay.
So
Back
coming
to
back,
creativity. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No,
I just
no
wanted to
worries.
Get out there. I like that. I like that origin story.
and so basically, how do you guys create personally? Do you guys have a schedule? Do you have a routine? Do you find time to be creative between work and a personal life? Do you have a Kind of Funny mindset? Do you have like a personal mindset? That's kind of like the general idea of it, and then so
Okay.
you guys can take it wherever you want.
Well, I want
But
to
then-
start with you because like you're here at Crush Your Goals, your podcast, and all this stuff.
Yes.
But that's not your job, right? You have a full time gig you have to go do.
Yes.
How do you find time then? How did you go from I listen to podcasts and I think I could do that too? You know what? I'm gonna work a hard day because what do you do for a job?
I work with special needs kids, and then I make sure they get to school. And
That's an awesome job to have.
thank you.
But I mean, I imagine it's stressful. It's
A little bit.
tiring. Yeah,
Yeah, that can be.
You'd want to come home, I imagine, at some point and looking at your physique, eat
stop.
three dozen buffalo wings,
Stop.
have a beer. No, yeah. How do you find time between, I guess, lifting a bus over your head and driving a bus, and then I mean, like, what motivates you to go be creative?
Just doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just finding the time. For me, it literally is just that, and just understanding like what is it I want and how I want to do things. Because the way I want to do with my, I guess, platform or brand or whatever the hell you want to call it, I mean, it's mostly just me and 2 of my friends.
Yeah.
And then they're nice enough to like humor me. And so basically it's just me. And so it's just the idea of like, all right, how do I do this? How can I go that next step? And it's like, I want to be here, but I want to be there as well. So let's just, might as well just do it.
Start working on it.
Just start
yeah.
working on it
Yeah.
and find what makes me happy. And this past year for me has been finding that. And then, because when I first launched Crush Your Goals, I mean, I don't want to make it a Crush Your Goals topic, but it was just that idea of, it was based on fitness, because that's when I first thought of it. I'm like, oh, fitness clothing line, Crush Your Goals, that sounds awesome. And, most people would associate that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, that went on for a year, and then it just didn't happen. And then my life happened, and then personal stuff happened, and it was just like, what can I do now? I'm not excited about this. I'm going to expos. I'm going to things. It's not working. You know what I mean? It's
And these
just,
are like fitness expos and stuff like that.
yeah, this is fitness expos and things. I'm trying making deals with people and just fell through. And it's just like, well, fuck. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying my hardest to get shit done, and it's just, why is this not working? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
If you're putting all your time, all your energy into said basket, why is it not working? Granted, you're not supposed to put all your energy into one basket, they say, but. So then I relaunched it, and then it was just like, I want to make stories. I want to find that, and and I want to be a storyteller. And
Gotcha.
so, how badly do I want to tell my stories, or stories about film, or whatever it may be, or other people's stories?
Sure.
So I think with the Crush Your Goals podcast, when I have one-on-one time, it's me talking to people I find interesting, or people I'm talking to, as in like business people or developers, or not in the sense of developers as like gamers, but just like comics and things like that.
Sure,
'Cause
sure,
I'm more
sure,
on
sure.
the film and comic side.
Sure. Creators in general, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're working on a script for a movie.
Yeah.
So that kind of is the goal when there's the other goal that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so if you can see, I have a really big head, and so I try to shoot for the stars, and that's just the whole big thing going for it. And so trying not to have an ego, but it's just like, what is it do I really want to do? And it's like, I want to make a movie. That's
awesome.
That's been my biggest dream. Like, because growing up, I was always like bused into school or things like that, so I never was like talking to people or in the sense of like, I was one of the cool kids, so I always did sports to kind of, supplement that. But then it was just like, all right, I'm going to watch movies with my parents. And then my mom or my dad taking me to the movies on on Sundays or things like that. And it was just, I want to do this. This is cool. Like, and then seeing Kevin Smith be like, that doesn't look that good. Like Clerks, it's harsh, but it's the thing of its time.
No,
Kevin
totally.
Smith will say that though.
Yeah,
right?
and
Kevin
he said
Smith
it
said
too.
multiple times, Clerks is not a good movie.
I mean, it's,
Whoa.
Not a well-made movie, I should say, as far as craft is concerned.
but that's
it's
always
a fun
been,
movie. It's a great movie.
That's
Everyone
just been
loves
always been like my true passion. It's just like I went to Long Beach State, right? And then so I did track, and then they said, hey, if you want to come and do track here, you can't do film. You're just your
What a bunch of assholes.
your credits don't line up, so
Yeah.
you got to do something different. Okay, so I did something different. And then it's like, I got a job offer to be a coach. And it's like, all right, well, this is good money and this is like a cool experience, but this isn't filmmaking, you know what I mean? And then just figuring things out of just like hitting every single bump in the road, that plan B of just been like, fuck, this isn't what I want.
Sure. By the time you turn around and look down the path you've gone, you're like, I'm way off track from where I want to be.
Well, yeah, and they say like Morgan Freeman was on the Nerdist one way back then. He's like, if you're doing plan B, then why are you even worrying about plan A or something to that effect? And it's just like, fuck, I need to get back to that because that's what makes me happy. And then I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to start writing and then just see where it goes. And then slowly but surely it became about my life and then how I'm going to do things. Because it's like Ricky Gervais said on The Hollywood Reporter, or he years ago wrote an article, and it was like, write what you know. So what do I know? My life. Simple as put it that way. But it's just like, okay, I'm going to write a story based on me and my best friend and everything we've experienced in the past 3 years of our lives. And then I'm going to try and just take it to that next level. So it's basically like 80% our lives and then 20% kind of just like spinning a yarn.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I mean, creativity, that's what this is all about, obviously. But I mean, it's awesome to see you make time for that. While you're doing this YouTube channel, while you have a great job, I mean, getting off of plan B, trying to switch this up and get where you want to be.
Yeah, and then for some people who are probably like, why does this guy have a YouTube channel or this or that? It's just, this is something I can do in the meantime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is something fun I enjoy. I don't expect many people to look at it or see it. I've been podcasting for like 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
And then when I first launched Crusher Goals, I had a crush cast with the Yeti thing, right? So that's been 3 years of shitty podcasting, and like I'm just now getting to being halfway decent.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work to be just this half-assed. So
Trust me, we know.
Oh, we're well aware of that.
Well
Don't worry
aware.
about
and so that's just that mindset of just like, I want to just keep trying because back about 2 to 3 years ago, I had someone in my life say, you're just going to be this one thing. You know what I mean? And then that person was a big part of my life at that time. And it was just like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah.
No.
Fuck you.
No, it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm more than just said thing. You know what I mean? Or at least in my heart and like my head, I feel like I am.
Sure.
And so it was just like, how far can I take that?
Right.
Or at least how far can I try to take that?
This was a relationship, I'm assuming?
Huh?
A relationship, I'm assuming? Yeah.
No longer.
Yeah, well, when you mentioned something happened, I assumed that's what it was back in the day. But that's what you need to do. Like that, I mean, for us in particular, I mean, for what we've done and how you went, I remember when we were getting ready to leave IGN, and it was that thing of telling people about it. And I think even Kevin Smith talks about it on a podcast we did with him, where it was just like, well, what do your significant others think about this? You know what I mean? And it was that, if any of them would have been at the time like, this is a dumb idea, why are you doing this? You couldn't do this. You can't. You're nothing without them. Blah blah. It would have been like that moment of either you accept that and that's who you are, or you're like, no, fuck off. Like this, I can be more than this. I can do more than this.
And to your point, shout out to my girlfriend. She is completely supportive of it. Her name's Marika.
What a Marika?
Marika.
She's 5'2" and has calves the size of softballs.
Nice.
So she works out too. So
I imagine so.
yeah.
Unless, either that or she's got amazing genes for calves.
Yeah. And so
She can eat whichever she wants and has amazing calves.
Stay built.
But anyways, but she's been super supportive of it. And I mean, she's been there since day one, since we first started dating. She saw me as a coach, you know what I mean? Because that's where I was. I was a university coach, getting my master's. And so I was just like, fuck, this isn't what I want. And then funny enough, there is a touchstone of sorts to me. in my life. Did you guys remember the Marvel event in October, like 3 years ago in 2014, when they announced everything?
When they announced the whole timeline and it was fucking epic.
Oh,
and
the
they
movies
called
thing?
it
Yeah.
Captain America Serpent Squad. Everyone was just like, no one wants
So
that.
I was
and
there.
Then edited it in Civil War. Everyone lost their shit. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I was there with Marika. We
Oh,
got
wow.
there. I called in sick. I was like, not sick, obviously. So I was like, fuck this. I'm going. I'm not missing out on another cool thing. I've never been to a Comic-Con. Never been to like anything nerd-esque, I guess you would say, or anything like of that
But you went to the coolest thing that there ever fucking was.
So, yeah.
I would have killed to be in that room.
So I got there and we were like fucking late. It was just LA traffic sucks, especially in the morning. And you're
Yeah.
just like, fuck, we're not going to get in. And then literally it was like, you two come with us. We need to fill up spots. Okay. So then they take us down to the front level and they're like, you need to sit right here. Jim Vavita Stacks is right in front of me.
No way, Stacks.
Yeah. And then so then you
IGN.
got IGN. And then Josh Whedon sitting next to me like the entire
Nice.
and I'm just like, why the fuck are we here?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's something to
I ask
this. Like
myself,
why
You
are
were
we
going to be
doing
announced as
basis.
Black Panther.
I wish. God damn.
That would be something.
But anyways, it was just that
That might have
idea.
caused a couple ripples.
Maybe, you know. But it was just that idea of like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then I remember leaving it being just like, fuck, why am I not doing this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because granted,
Yeah.
you know, for me, it's been about films and superheroes and comic books. That's been like my thing. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Granted,
Yeah.
it's, you know, pie in the sky, way down the line type of thing, but it's just like, how do I get there?
Yeah.
And so it was just literally me and her just like sitting. It was quiet. And I was trying not to get emotional about it with her. And I was just like, because she knew. She was like, this is what you want.
Yeah.
And I knew right then and there I was gonna like, I'm gonna have to quit. Or I mean, like when that time comes, or like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to just take that next step.
Sure.
And so I eventually did.
Well, that was a big thing for us. I mean, it was that conversation of, well, we feel like this is the right move, but even if it fails, like we got to take it now because otherwise we don't want to look back in 20 years
Yeah.
and be like, well, I wish we would have done that back then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a big fan of the concept that like there's no such thing as wasted creativity, right? So if you're gonna go out and try something, and even if one person watches it, I think there's still merit in that. I think there's still value in that. And a lot of people think that, like, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking there is such a thing as an overnight success, because once you discover someone, or once you know, like you and I were talking about Joe Rogan earlier, but like by the time I came across his podcast, it was already one of the #1 podcasts in the world, right? So it's easy for you to look at that and be like, oh my God, that's like, I'm never going to be that because this guy is huge, and obviously that happened overnight. And then you start listening to his stories, you're like, no, this guy built a career from the age of 16 to now, and now he is huge, right? He's been huge for the last maybe 10 years, but that's still, you're neglecting to think about the other 20 years he spent mounting that amazing career and building toward that. Yeah. And you ask, when do we find time to be creative? I like to try to carve out at least a half hour of an hour of every day to just sit and write and do something on that nature. Sometimes, I go into every day saying I'm going to write for an hour every day, and then sometimes the day happens and you just miss out and you're like, shit, you feel bad, but you write the next day. And that's not something that I ever really even need to any of that to see the light of day. It's just fun to sit with that, and it's very it's almost a relief for the pressure to be like, I'm just going to put some words down on paper right now and just see where that leads. Sharpen that tool. Keep that creative part of my brain going. And I'm fortunate enough to have things like, obviously this is an incredibly creative endeavor that we do that has afforded me not only the opportunity to do podcasting, but also to do things like the animated show, or do things like Love and Sex stuff. We can go out there and do little stupid skits and work toward that. But it's very easy, even for me. Sometimes I'll be like, Tim and I will talk. We'll go out to coffee. I'm like, oh man, I just wish we could do like this thing. And I keep saying that and not realizing that we are in fact working toward that, and we will have whatever those things are one day. But you have to keep that in mind of saying it can't happen overnight. Real progress is a slow uphill sort of like progression. You know what I mean? And it's very difficult to judge that and see that when you're in the middle of it. Like Joe Rogan could look back on his life now and be like, yeah, I've clearly made it. Yeah. Right. But if you'd asked him maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe he didn't think that, right? Maybe he's like, I'm still struggling trying to figure out what's next after Fear Factor or whatever. And now he's like a household name to anyone that likes UFC or likes comedy or likes hunting or psychedelic drug trips.
Man shit.
Yeah, man shit.
What's cool with you specifically, Nick, is everything you just said is absolutely right, where when you're in the moment, it's kind of hard to look around and be like, all right, this is what I wanted before, and now I actually got it. But I'll never forget being at Comic-Con year after year with IGN doing the shows, and you would direct the live shows that we did that Greg hosted, and we'd have so many celebrities come through, and Greg would be interviewing whatever. And whenever we'd go out to lunch, we'd all be like, man, this is fucking cool and rad. And you were always just like, yeah, but I want to be I want people talking to me about the thing I'm doing.
Yeah, there was
You know?
always that. There was always that sort of. I mean, don't get me wrong. The stuff that IGN does now into this day, the stuff that we started and helped build, is still tremendously creative and is awesome. And if that's what if your goal in life is to kind of chronicle what's happening in the world, I think more power to you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I have designs to create different things, different kinds of media, right? I want to create more narrative content. I want to create content that can live on sort of beyond me, make my name for that. And you can say it if you want.
I did. I said it quietly.
And so yeah, it would be bittersweet every time we would stand on a press line and you'd sit there. I don't know if you've ever done a press line before, but what you used to do, I think it's probably still the case. I haven't done one in years.
It is.
But you go, you wait in the behind, like in the back room of a hotel or the back room of Comic-Con, and whoever will have just gotten off the main stage or whatever comes back, and you're lined up with your camera, and then one by one they come down and you get about a couple minutes.
Hold the fucking mic out. Everyone else holds their mics out.
Everyone's holding their mic out.
That's your cookie cutter answer.
And from the very first press room,
He's just such a great director, and it was a pleasure to work. I mean, I have all the faith in the world, and that's really why it came together. But it's a team effort.
Yeah, and then well, yeah.
But the point that I was trying to get to,
but
Nick,
the point is like there was always a line, right? And like being on one side of the line had always affected me.
Yeah.
And I always thought, I'm like, it's awesome to be here. Don't get me wrong. Like this is a dream come true. But I always wonder what it'd be like to be on the other side of that line. The people that get to come out and talk about this thing they've been working on for like 3 years, and like all the anxiety and all the nerves and excitement that goes into like letting the press and letting the public see that product, and the thing you've poured your heart and soul into. I think that's just this. Maybe I'm over romanticizing it because by all accounts, there's a lot. Like, films are hard and. Things, TV's hard. It's difficult. This is hard work that people go through. But at the same time, it's always, I always like, fuck, man, like seeing Bruce Willis for the first time, or seeing like Chris Hemsworth, or seeing like Chris Evans, and these like Robert Downey Jr. Like, holy shit, like it makes it so much more real when you're like, there's only a half a foot. Like the first time I saw first and only time I should say that I saw Bruce Willis, I was like, there's a fucking half a foot of air between me and Bruce fucking Willis. Like, you're talking Die Hard.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis, like my John McClane, like one of my all-time idols, and it really makes it real for you. Like, this guy did it. He did it. He put the work in, and he made the smart choices, and he made the sacrifices, and he's able to do the thing that he wanted to do. And it's a lesson learned. Like, all the people out there that are doing the thing you've always wanted to do are people. They're not superhuman beings. They're not. Maybe some of them came from bigger and better families or lineage, especially in film, if they came from a film background where their dad or their mom or their brothers were in film before them. But at the same time, they still get up every day in the morning and think, how am I going to do the thing that I want to do in life? How am I going to continue to do the thing I want to do in life? How am I going to get better at it or bigger at it? And that's important, because if they can do it, then everyone can do it.
Well, to your point, it's just like that idea of like, I'm nothing special, but why not me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, 100%. Why can't I do it? Like, just understanding and just trying to figure out like, okay, like I want to make a movie. How the fuck do you do that? You know what I mean? Like, okay, we got to get audio, got to get a camera, got to get, are you doing a steady cam? Are we doing a tripod? Are we doing whatever, makeup, wardrobe, insurance, things like that. Getting actors. Are you going to have actors, or are you going to have professional actors, or are you going to have your friends? Are you going to get, a real set, or are you going to do film in real places? Are you going to have, this, that, and the other, and you just got to figure out.
Well,
like,
and you mentioned ego, right? And I think ego is an interesting thing because it's a double-edged sword. A lot of people say the word ego like it's a bad word, right? Like, you're not supposed to have an ego about things. But in order to do what we do, you have to have a little bit of an ego. You have to have a little bit of a voice in the back of your head that says, you know what, you can do this. Like, you can go out in front of 1,300 people or 1,000 people or stream in front of 25,000 people and be confident in what you're saying. And you've got all of your past experiences that can tell you like, yeah, you're okay doing that. But at the same time, there has to be a little bit of you that kind of blows smoke up your own ass, you know what I mean? And gives you that confidence to be like, you know what, fuck it, just go try it. You can do this. Why not?
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I think everyone reveres Kevin, and rightfully so, Kevin Smith, because he was the one person that said, I'm going to just do this at all costs. And it actually worked out. And unfortunately for everyone, Kevin Smith, there's probably 10,000 failed filmmakers that are now doing other things. But again, going back to my original point, like, I don't think, like, I honestly, Kevin Smith said something once on a podcast. I'm sure he said it more than once on a podcast, because knowing Kevin Smith, he says the same thing a lot. But it's always very inspirational. He said, he maxed out his credit cards, and even if Clerks had failed, he knew even on the day after, he talks about how he took it to the first film festival and no one showed up, and he was sure he was going to sell it. And after that first film festival, he was like just completely destroyed. And he said even in that moment, even in that total pit of desperation that he was in, he knew he was going to do it again. And like, he's like, even if this fails, if I don't sell us, I'm going to find a way to do this again. And I'm like, that kind of enduring spirit and that level of faith in yourself is a very important thing to have. Because if you can't be your own cheerleader, no one else is going to be.
Yeah.
Ever. You know, if you can't, and this is the same always, no matter like at what level you're at, there is always you always have to be the person in the room that believes in yourself the most. And you have to convince everyone else around you. You know, you look at guys like The Rock, look at guys like Kevin Hart, guys that are like at the top of their careers after like 20 or 30 years putting it in. And you're going to tell me you stand in a room with that guy and that guy's not going to just fucking like emanate,
light it up,
like just, you know what I mean? Like he's going to light up the room with how awesome that he is, maybe in a positive or negative way, depending on the star you're talking about. But like The Rock believes in himself.
Yeah.
He really does. And if he doesn't, and I'm sure there are moments, I'm sure there are days when The Rock wakes up and he's like, fuck, I don't want to hit the weights again for the 1 billionth time.
Yeah.
But he finds that in himself to be like, you know, that self-talk, whatever that positive energy is that you have to tell yourself every day, he finds it in himself and he goes out there and does it.
He rolls over and just looks at the bed of money he's on. He's like, I can do it. I'll get out there. I'll pump
He's
some
like,
iron.
God, I'm all sore. And then he just dives into his pool of money and he's like, this is definitely worth it.
He deserves it. Rock's awesome.
He's awesome.
Rock's awesome. Tim?
Yeah.
How do you keep your creativity going?
I don't know. I think not growing up is a big part of
That's
it.
huge.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of like sticking to your guns of what you always wanted to do when you had nothing to do. Like just thinking back to being young and playing with Legos, that was all I ever wanted to do. And it was so much fun. It just allowed you to just go. Playing with action figures, that's great too. And there's a lot of imagination there. But there's just something about Legos where you're literally able to build whatever you want and then come up with the same stories you would with action figures or whatever. And I feel like that has always stuck with me. And as I've grown up, I just always think back to being in that mindset when I'm thinking about things. And when I watch movies, like all I was doing with action figures was trying to recreate what I saw on TV and movies, right?
Yeah.
And it's about taking the moments that really resonate with you for whatever reason, and trying to channeling that into your output and whatever it is. And like, it gets really rough because the grass is always greener. No matter what
100%.
you're doing, no matter how creative you are being with the thing that you are doing, you always want to be doing something else, and you always think that there is something better out there to be doing. And I think that like The Rock, I can only imagine that he wakes up and as awesome as he is, and as much as everyone looks at him as 10 out of 10, a perfect human being, I'm sure he's just like, am I doing the right things? Is there more I could be doing? Like, is this the thing that I want to be doing? I have all this money, but
there's always someone who seems more successful or is doing it in a different way that makes you go,
that has
"Man,
something that you don't have. And
Yeah.
a lot of the times it's not a physical thing. It's more of, man, they're able to do that. I wish I was able to do.
Oh, you see it all the time with actors and with like celebrities. Like The Rock is a perfect example, right? Like The Rock started with WWE, went into, it was like, I want to be in movies, right? I want to be the next action star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, whatever you call it, right? Started actively pursuing that, put the work in, did the rundown, did movies like that, and now he's producing his own stuff. So he's got $7 production, $7.
Yeah.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're producing Ballers, and a number of other things. He's working into the online market, all that stuff. And Ballers, by the way, I know you guys don't watch.
I love Ballers. We're talking about. I watch Ballers every week.
Do you watch it?
I saw part of season 2.
He doesn't like sports.
It's
so just
on-
can't
it's
get
on
into
track.
it.
It's good.
You're a
Everyone out there,
monster.
it's on track
You're
for
a
sports.
monster.
But yeah, I mean, I guarantee at some point The Rock's going to be like, I don't know The Rock, but I'm sure at some point he's like, how do I get into more, like less actiony stuff, more dramatic stuff? Maybe he's going to angle toward maybe getting an Academy Award, right? It's not
president.
beyond that.
Being president, yes, that'd be awesome.
He could be. I mean, he could take a step down from Academy Award and become president of the United States. That'd be interesting. Although Rock, if you're listening, we need you. Come on, be our hero. But I think what you brought up is a very interesting point, right? When we first started podcasting, the reason I found the Joe Rogan Experience and some other like the Smodcast, things like that, was because I realized that I wasn't a fan of the product that we were making. And I think that's incredibly important, right? If you're trying to make films and you don't like watching movies, it's not going to work out, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have a ongoing list of your top 10 movies, that's every time someone asks you, it's completely different. You probably don't have the passion for doing this thing, right? Same with me in podcasts. I was like, hey, we're going to start a pod. When we decided to do the GameOverGreggy show 3 years ago, I was like, I don't actually listen to podcasts. And I think that's bad. I think I should look out there and try to find someone that I can vibe with. And lo and behold, as I started listening to Rogan and to Kevin Smith and to a number of other podcasts like The Business, I became a fan of not only the medium, but the personalities behind it. And I think that's very important, because if you can't say to yourself, like, eat a slice of humble pie, and be like, there are people out there that do it better. You know, Tim's a perfect example of this, where he always looks up to the guys with Rooster Teeth. And there's two ways of looking at that. There's that, whatever, you know, I'm not a fan of their content, so their content doesn't matter. Or they're doing something right. I should probably try to figure out, at least give this a chance and try to be, and put my ego aside in that regard, to become a fan of this and see and be inspired by this, because that's really what it's all about, right? Anyone that's ever wanted to make a film or make a song or make a rap video or anything like that, that didn't happen in a vacuum. At some point you saw someone else do it and you were like, that's cool. I want to be able to do that, right? And then that steps between what you're talking about, which is the step between being like going, oh, that's really cool, I wish, to, you know what, I'm going to take that first step and start trying to be that person that does
Get my
this.
feet wet a little bit.
That's the single most important step. And then from that point on, it's just about enjoying the ride, because who the fuck knows where you're going to end up.
Circling back to way earlier in this, when I was talking about you and the Comic-Con thing, to bring it to Rooster Teeth, I thought it was funny because 2 weeks ago when we went to Rooster Teeth for the week and we were on all the podcasts, so much of it just was like, so tell us about Kind of Funny. And like, I had a moment where I'm like, Nick doesn't even realize it, but we're literally doing the thing that he always wanted to be doing.
No, trust me.
Like, we sat there and people were interviewing us about our creative output.
Yeah. It's very cool. I mean, and that's too, and that feeds the ego, and that feeds obviously the creativity, right? Like right now I'm getting that level of fulfillment and validation as a creator, which is good. And once you start getting it, of course, you just want more of it, right? You want to give back. You want that cycle of like, and that's why creativity is probably the single most important thing in what we do, just the concept of it, even if you don't narrowly define it. It's just the concept of putting out that energy into the world with the fingers crossed that you're going to get it back tenfold.
Well, I mean, it's speaking to what you're talking about and speaking to what you were talking about, Chris, with, you know, your podcast in the beginning, is the fact that what it comes down to is if you're making a product you believe in, you'll find other people who believe in that product. If you're having fun doing is why we all started this and where it all began. But for you not to enjoy what you were putting on the podcast, or ever go find new podcasts, for you to be into it for a year, you said, right? And then be like, well, I'm not on the path I want to be with it. That's always the interesting aspect of it. And it's interesting as we've gotten bigger and Kind of Funny's grown, the more and more people now, not in a bad way, but want to change that vision or whatever. Right. You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this? Why wouldn't you do this? Why aren't you doing this show? Why wouldn't you do it this way? And it's like, I understand that and I respect that you want that, but if I don't agree with it, I can't make that happen. I can't, force your vision into my vision, because then it'll be, I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. And then I won't be happy in the end, and you won't be happy either, because the product won't be genuine. If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And that's the whole reason why we did this in the first place, right? Was to do what we wanted to do, and hopefully attract a group of people out there that would help support us in that by watching it and buying ridiculous t-shirts. And
to me, that is why I think that we are the luckiest people in the world, because to me, Kind of Funny Live is my ultimate creative output, where that is what I like to do. I look up to people to put on awesome live shows, and to be able to be like, all right, what would be cool for our audience to see, and to be able to think that way. I love that so much. And I love that we've created a place where people just want to be entertained by us. Yeah. So anything that we do is already going to be enough, but that just puts the pressure on me to be like, no.
Take it up a notch.
It can't just be enough. Like, this is the opportunity to be creative and give back. And like, that's a really unique thing that we have going for us. Like, there's other people that have it, but ours is unique because it's ours, and because the people are here for us. So like what you're saying about, you can't listen to what other people want, because that's going to be so disingenuous and not the right product, because they're here for us.
Yeah, it's the difference between like being a thought follower or a thought leader, right? Like the reason people, when they fire up their YouTube app on their PlayStation 4 and they're looking through their subscriptions, or they're looking for whatever the recent content is, the reason they pick us over anything else out there is because we're making something that appeals to them, right? And it speaks to them, and you have to there's something genuine about that you have to kind of be truthful to yourself when you're making it. Otherwise, I really believe that maybe people can't put their finger on it, but subconsciously they kind of they're like, someone's like trying to cater to me specifically, and I don't know if they like that or not.
Too on the nose.
I mean, I guess there's a mix of that, right? Like obviously, if tomorrow I was like, I'm just going to talk about wine forever, like it might not vibe with the people that have come here to hear us talk about movies and comics and games and things like that, right?
So I understand. Would be really stoked.
Gio would be stoked.
Subscriber number one.
Gio would start the podcast with me.
Yeah.
Call it Winecast. I'm sure there's already one cast. But I mean, that's important, right? But that's also a very scary thing, because when you're stepping out and you're starting to create your own content, the first thing you do is you're like, let's emulate the things that we see around us, right? But then slowly but surely you have to come out of your shell, and and this is something I struggle with too all the time, which is just saying like, I'm going to now, if it's a podcast, really share what I really feel about things, right? But you're going out on a limb because you're actually like, you're exposing yourself to people. It's easy for me to be like, for the morning show, for instance, is a very easy thing for me to do because I don't necessarily have to run an opinion on something. I just get to go out there and be like, here's all the cool stuff that's happening in the world that we like, right? It's not really my stuff, but like this podcast I'm a little bit more exposed because, I bring topics to the table that I want to talk about and I clearly have an opinion on. And that's a very empowering thing, but it's also a double-edged sword because it opens up for people to disagree with you. But that's good. That's thought provoking. That's real engagement with people. But it's difficult to do for sure.
Very nice.
Is that good?
I think that's good. Just 2 little quick questions.
Sure.
Or at least to stay on this topic. So I'll go with Tim. Mm-hmm. Tim, when are you going to record your first mixtape?
Oh my God.
We're working on it.
Well, we are working on it.
So here's the thing.
That's one way to put it.
One of the things I like a lot, I'm answering this question for Tim. One of the things I like about a lot of what we do is the 3 of us, and Kevin included, and Andy, and sometimes Cool Greg, we all push each other toward things.
Yeah.
Which is good. Like I've often said, and I know this about myself, like I could not do any creative endeavor by myself. I can't do it. I'm not the Kevin Smith of the world where I'm like, I'm going to go out there and do it and rally people around me. I need a group of people that can push me, who I can be like brotherly competitive with, and people who I recognize the talents in me and go, hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do this. And with Tim, I've not so subtly, really just blatantly over the past like 4 months been like, hey, here's an opportunity to do a cool rap song. Here's this thing. And I'm wearing him down.
Like, hey,
I'm wearing him down.
I need a rap song for the animated show.
I need that, by
Like
the way.
script's already. I was fucked. Yeah, there's another one. But when we did the Star Wars thing, I need a Star Wars rap. You needed it. I'm like,
and you fucking knocked it out of the
And
park.
we did it. It was
Everyone,
fun.
you did it in a day.
I know. And, well,
the funniest part of
I'm
the
happy.
episode.
I'm happy. I love that shit. I love it so much. That is definitely where my passion lies. Is the comedy rap shit. And one day we're gonna go all out. Don't know when though.
But that's the best thing too is like that's what's hard for a lot of people to. That's what I was talking about earlier. It's hard for a lot of people to understand and recognize when that's happening. Like Tim writing a verse of the Ewok rap song in the animated show may not seem like it's the end all be all because it was a small blurb in an animated show that got 40,000 views or whatever it got. But that is a stepping stone to the next thing he's going to do. Right?
Absolutely.
It keeps the tool sharp. It keeps people thinking about Tim in that regard, and it all builds toward itself. Right? That's the kind of thing that you look back 20 years later and you can point to and be like, oh yeah, that was that little stone that I put on that one step that got me to this next thing, that got me to this one thing, that got me to like actually making the 12 album or the 12 song mixtape album, whatever we want to do, or a bunch of videos, things like that. So it's important to see that.
All right, and so then
Sorry, Tim,
I
answered
just
that
have one
question.
smaller question. But since you answered his question, I'll ask you.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
When is Nick going to complete his screenplay for about San Francisco, or that idea? he
Oh,
had?
interesting.
About San Francisco.
Yeah, I remember him saying something on a topic about you having this like affinity for
My
San
love
Francisco.
letter to San Francisco.
That's something along that.
That's in the back burner.
I haven't even heard. I must have missed.
Yeah,
that
I had
one.
an idea for an indie film that I by the way, I have like, I'm sure you're like me, I've got literally just folders of synopsis for movies that I want to write one day. Maybe sometimes they're one line, sometimes they're paragraphs. I have one that's like 20 pages. But yeah, I had this idea of kind of mirroring what I felt before we left IGN, which was kind of trying to touch base or find that part of everyone that's like wanting to change their life, like similar to where you're at right now, right? You're in this job, you're in this world that you don't belong to anymore, but you don't know how to change that, and how does that manifest itself, and like what would happen if you're in that state and you're on the breaking point and you just decided to go out into the city and like use the city as a distraction for one night, and like what would that look like for San Francisco?
Become the road.
Well, not even the road, but like, but San
blend
Francisco
into
to me has been.
Then you can't stop and you start taking over the buildings, and then you're the blob. It's
you
prequel
are
to the blob.
Or spoilers, that thing in Guardian. Never mind.
Thanks, haven't seen it.
Don't worry about it. It's a pivotal moment in the movie. Cool. But San Francisco has meant so many different things to me over the years, right? It's been the city that I grew up in my 20s. It's been the city I met my wife in. It's been the city I committed to her as a man, and I really became an adult and a man in. It's also the city that is a complete and total fucking. Kevin, I am a man.
Committed to her as a man.
Is he playing Zelda over there?
Yeah,
What's he doing?
of course
Still
he
playing
is.
Zelda.
Oh,
There he is,
the
coming
quest
back
to be better than Nick begins.
So anyway, so that was the general concept, right? Look, what happens when a person who doesn't want to face his life decides to use the city as a playground basically and a distraction. And what does that look like for a night? Just a slice of life kind of movie. I have it on the back burner. It's there, but that's very deeply. That's a deeply meaningful thing to me. It's very difficult to rally and like want to touch that, like get in touch with that part of yourself every night.
He has other screenplays that he is further along in.
Fair enough. Well, that was the only one that came to mind to me.
How's our movie come?
It's good. We canceled it. We canceled our writing date yesterday. Remember?
I know. Well, yeah. We canceled the writing day. We didn't cancel the movie.
But it's good.
Right.
I read through
That's
the
the one.
outline last week.
That's
I was
one's
like,
gonna
this is
get
good.
done.
I like this.
Got to put another
It's gonna
movie
be
on
fun.
the books and actually do it.
I will.
You know what I mean?
Actually, I'll do that tonight.
Okay.
Today. Committing.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Game Over Greggy Show. Click here to subscribe. Click here to support us on Patreon. Click here to see other episodes. Click here to go into a portal to take you to Kind of Funny Games. I'm Greg. I kind of made all this happen. But I mean, not in like a conceited way. I'm just saying if I didn't want to do the Oreo show ever, then it would have never happened. I hope Kevin isn't mad at me. You mad at me, Kevin?